Welcome to the Cat's Notebook. Today, we will delve into the dark and fascinating world of the most controversial comics in history. We will talk about stories that have challenged social norms and those that have sparked intense and heated debates. These comics have left an indelible mark on pop culture. It is important to mention that this list does not follow a specific order, but as we progress, we will dive deeper into more controversial and disturbing comics. From questioning morality to graphic depictions of violence, and the challenge to religious beliefs, these comics have pushed the boundaries of what is considered acceptable and have made both fans and critics pause to reflect. Subscribe and hit the notification bell, because things are about to get interesting. Let's begin. We begin this journey with a comic that stirred quite a bit of controversy in 2014. Spider-Woman #1. This issue, written by Dennis Hopeless and illustrated by the talented Milo Manara, quickly became the center of a controversy. The problem lay in the comic's variant cover. The image depicted Spider-Woman in a highly provocative pose, wearing a very tight suit that exaggerated her figure. Many people pointed out that this sexualized representation of the character was inappropriate and perpetuated negative stereotypes about women in comics. A debate arose on social media, with some criticizing the cover as disrespectful to female characters, while others defended the author's artistic freedom. As a result, Marvel was forced to stop using the cover in future editions and to cover part of the art with the comic's title. The next stop on the list of the most controversial comics is Ms. Marvel. In this case, we're referring to the Kamala Khan incarnation, released in 2014. Written by G. Willow Wilson and illustrated by Adrian Alfona, this comic made history by introducing the first Muslim superheroine in a Marvel comic. The online discussion focused on those who disagreed with the appearance of this character and those who supported Marvel for moving forward with this idea. In the story, Kamala deals with the challenges of being a superhero while also facing the difficulties of being a Muslim in the United States. Despite the controversy, Ms. Marvel was a success and managed to build a dedicated fan base. The next comic on the list is one that showed a dark side of one of the most beloved heroes, Iron Man. This issue is titled, Demon in a Bottle. It was published in 1979, written by David Michelinie, and illustrated by Bob Layton and John Romita Jr. This comic addresses Tony Stark's struggles with alcohol. Tony faces a downward spiral due to his addiction, which affects his personal life and his ability to be a hero. The story portrays, in a raw and honest way, how Tony deals with his inner demons, something that hadn't been explored in comics in this manner at that time. The controversy arose due to the mature and serious nature of the topic. Until then, superhero comics rarely tackled such real and personal issues like alcoholism. Some parents and critics considered it inappropriate for a comic aimed at a young audience to deal with such a dark and complex theme. On the other hand, this story was praised for humanizing Tony Stark, showing that even superheroes can have complex and real problems. Demon in a Bottle demonstrated that comics can be a medium for exploring social issues and personal struggles. The authors of this story stated that they wanted to make Tony Stark more human by showing his vulnerabilities and weaknesses. Over the years, Demon in a Bottle has been referenced in both comics and cinematic interpretations. Undoubtedly, this comic has had a lasting impact on the character of Tony Stark and superhero comics in general. The next entry on this list of controversial comics is Howard the Duck. Created by Steve Gerber and Val Mayerick in 1973, this character is known for his satirical humor and unique perspective on the superhero world. Howard the Duck stood out from the beginning for its satirical and irreverent tone, often parodying pop culture and the comic book industry itself. Howard is an anthropomorphic duck trapped in a world that isn't his own, facing ridiculous and absurd situations, which allowed the creators to tackle social and political issues in a comedic and critical way. Howard's comics gradually sparked controversy by addressing topics considered taboo and challenging social norms of the time. The adult humor and social satire weren't always well received by all readers, especially those who expected more traditional superhero stories. Additionally, Marvel faced legal issues when Disney sued them due to the similarity between Howard and Donald Duck, leading to a redesign of the character to avoid further conflicts. The tone and content of Howard's comics not only defied the expectations of the superhero genre but also sparked debates about censorship and creative freedom in comics. Some people appreciated the comic's boldness and originality, while others found it inappropriate and offensive. Steve Gerber, Howard's creator, defended his work, arguing that comics could be a form of art that reflected and critiqued society. Marvel, on the other hand, had to balance maintaining the creative integrity of the series with the pressure of criticism and legal challenges. Despite the controversies, Howard the Duck has remained an icon of satire in comics and has influenced many subsequent works. In 1986, he had his own movie, which, although a box office failure, remains a curious part of film and Marvel history. Additionally, he has made appearances in MCU movies and series. This comic addressed a sensitive social issue and sparked significant debate at the time. Lois Lane, Superman's Girlfriend number 106. Published in 1970, this story, titled I Am Curious, Black, is remembered for its treatment of racial tensions in the United States. In this story, Lois Lane, the intrepid reporter for the Daily Planet, decides to write an article about the neighborhood Little Africa in Metropolis. However, she realizes that the residents do not trust her because of her skin color. Determined to understand their experiences firsthand, Lois persuades Superman to use a Kryptonian machine that temporarily changes her physical appearance, turning her into a black woman. Lois's transformation was seen by some as a superficial and simplistic approach to tackling a complex issue like racism. Some argued that the comic addressed the topic in a way that could be seen as condescending and unrealistic, and that it fell into several stereotypes. While many praised the comic for attempting to address an important issue and for its message of empathy and understanding, others felt that it did not delve deeply enough into the experiences and challenges faced by Black people in the United States. The writers defended their story, and DC also supported the approach, seeing an opportunity to use their iconic characters to promote reflection. Over time, Lois Lane, Superman's Girlfriend number 106 has been re-examined both for its intentions and its limitations, and remains an interesting chapter in the history of DC Comics. Our next comic is one of the most controversial in Spider-Man's history. One More Day. This comic, published in 2007 and written by J. Michael Straczynski and Joe Quesada, left an indelible mark on fans of the web-slinger. In the comic, Aunt May is gravely injured. In his desperation to save her, Peter turns to the demon Mephisto. The demon offers him a deal: he will save his aunt, but Peter must sacrifice his marriage to Mary Jane. Peter and Mary Jane's decision to accept the deal and undo their marriage enraged many fans. For many, their relationship was a fundamental element in Spider-Man's story. The idea that their love could be erased felt like a betrayal of the character's development and the stories fans had followed for years. The reactions were varied and intense. Fans believed it was a cheap way to reboot the character to present him as younger and single. Marvel, on the other hand, defended One More Day, arguing that it was necessary to explore new narratives and attract new readers. Joe Quesada, one of the writers, stated that he wanted to return to the character's roots, focusing on the challenges of a young hero. Over time, some elements of this story have been revisited and nuanced, but the controversy remains a reminder of how passionate Spider-Man fans are. The next comic to discuss is The Ultimates. This series redefined superheroes for a new generation. Published in 2002 and written by Mark Millar with art by Brian Hitch, The Ultimates offered a modern and realistic take on the Avengers. From the start, The Ultimates stood out for its dark tone and realistic approach. The heroes were depicted with more human flaws and grittier conflicts. For example, Captain America is portrayed as a tough and pragmatic soldier, Iron Man as a hedonistic alcoholic, and Hulk as an uncontrollable beast who even commits atrocious acts. One of the most controversial aspects of the series was the way it tackled adult themes such as extreme violence, substance abuse, and dysfunctional interpersonal relationships. The series didn't shy away from showing brutal fights, sexual tensions, and complex moral dilemmas. This led many to question whether this new approach was suitable for the iconic characters they knew and loved. While many praised The Ultimates for its boldness and innovative storytelling, others criticized it for being too dark and cynical. Fans of the traditional Avengers comics felt uncomfortable with the more violent and troubled versions of their favorite heroes. Mark Millar argued that he wanted to create a more adult and realistic version of superheroes that reflected the modern world. Marvel supported this approach, seeing an opportunity to attract a more mature audience and expand the scope of their stories. Despite the controversy, The Ultimates had a lasting impact on the Marvel Universe, influencing the MCU's film adaptations. Many elements of the Avengers movies, from the tone to the character design, were inspired by this series. Our next comic is a masterpiece that redefined the horror genre in comics, the Saga of the Swamp Thing. Published in 1984 and written by the visionary Alan Moore, this series not only revitalized a forgotten character but also broke barriers with its content and bold approach. When Alan Moore took the reins of Swamp Thing, he transformed the series into something entirely new. He began to redefine the character, not as a man turned into a monster, but as a plant that believes itself to be human. This philosophical twist was just the beginning of a deep exploration of themes like ecology, identity, and humanity. What caused controversy was the mature and graphic content of the series. Moore didn't shy away from depicting violence, horror, and sexuality in a way that few mainstream comics dared to do at the time. The story tackled themes such as abuse, corruption, and existential dread, which led the series to be one of the first to receive the label, for mature readers. The reactions were mixed. While many praised the series for its depth and innovative approach, others criticized its explicit content and departure from traditional superhero comic norms. The inclusion of sexual and violent scenes, along with an overall tone of psychological horror, made some readers and parents uncomfortable with the direction of the series. Alan Moore defended his vision, arguing that comics could and should be a medium for exploring adult and complex themes. Despite facing criticism, DC Comics supported the series, recognizing the value in Moore's narrative and the increasing popularity of the character. Over time, the Saga of the Swamp Thing has been hailed as one of the greatest comic series of all time, influencing generations of writers and artists. The series not only redefined Swamp Thing but also set a new standard for what comics could achieve in terms of storytelling and content. The next comic on this list is Captain America, Steve Rogers, a series that generated one of the biggest controversies in recent Marvel history. Published in 2016 and written by Nick Spencer with art by Jesus Saiz, this comic revealed a plot twist that left fans stunned and furious. It all begins in the first issue of this new series, where at the end of the comic, Steve Rogers, the iconic Captain America, utters two words that shook the fan community: "Hail Hydra." This revelation suggested that Marvel's most patriotic hero had been an undercover agent for Hydra, a Nazi organization, from the beginning. The controversy was immediate and explosive. Fans worldwide expressed their anger and confusion. For many, this betrayal went against everything Captain America stood for: the fight for freedom, justice, and American values. The idea that Steve Rogers could be a Hydra agent was seen as a direct affront to his legacy and to the original creators of the character, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, both of Jewish heritage. Some readers burned their comics in protest, while others started petitions for Marvel to reverse the storyline. Critics and fans debated heatedly about whether this plot twist was a betrayal of the character or a bold narrative move. Writer Nick Spencer and Marvel defended the decision, explaining that the story had a greater purpose and that everything would be revealed in due time. They argued that this twist was part of a larger narrative arc that would explore themes of identity, trust, and manipulation. Marvel asked fans to be patient and wait to see how the story developed. Over time, the story revealed that the original Captain America had been altered by a sentient cosmic cube named Kobik, and that his true heroic essence still existed. Despite the initial controversy, the Secret Empire arc concluded with Steve Rogers restoring his honor and defeating the evil version of himself. This entry is divided into two parts. On one hand, we have one of the most divisive events in Marvel's history, Civil War. Published in 2006 and written by Mark Millar with art by Steve McNiven, Civil War not only pitted heroes against villains but also divided Marvel's own heroes. It all begins with a tragic incident in Stamford, Connecticut, where a group of inexperienced superheroes causes an explosion that kills hundreds of civilians, including children. This event leads the government to propose the Superhuman Registration Act, which requires all superheroes to reveal their identities and submit to government regulation. This splits the hero community. Iron Man supports the law, while Captain America opposes it, seeing it as a violation of civil liberties. The controversy arose for several reasons. First, the premise touched on very current and sensitive topics, such as security versus freedom, privacy, and government control. Fans found themselves divided between the ideals of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, mirroring similar divisions in real society. Additionally, the dark tone and tragic outcome, which included the death of several beloved characters, were shocking and controversial. Reactions were intense and varied. Many appreciated Civil War for daring to address relevant issues, while others criticized the series for dividing the heroes in a way that seemed forced, and also for its devastating consequences. The conflict culminates with the death of Captain America, which shook Marvel fans. The author explained that he wanted to tell a story that reflected the political and social tensions of the time, using superheroes as a metaphor for broader debates about authority and freedom. Marvel supported the series for its ability to generate discussion and revitalize interest in its characters. 10 years later, in 2016, Marvel released Civil War II, written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by David Marquez. This sequel aimed to recapture the impact of the original but also generated its own controversy. In Civil War II, the conflict revolves around a new Inhuman named Ulysses, who has the ability to foresee the future. Iron Man and Captain Marvel find themselves on opposite sides of the dispute over whether they should use these visions to prevent crimes before they happen. Iron Man opposes it, arguing that the future is not set and that acting on visions is immoral, while Captain Marvel believes it is their duty to prevent disasters before they occur. The controversy here focused on themes of free will, responsibility, and the role of authority. Additionally, many fans criticized Civil War II for feeling like a rehash of the original conflict without adding significant new elements. The series was also criticized for controversial plot decisions, such as the deaths of major characters and the treatment of certain heroes. Some appreciated the exploration of new ethical dilemmas, while others felt the story didn't reach the heights of the original and that some narrative decisions seemed forced. Despite everything, Civil War II sparked intense debate and renewed interest in the moral dilemmas faced by superheroes. Next, we have Spider-Man: Sins Past, a story that left many fans of Peter Parker surprised and angry. Published in 2004 and written by J. Michael Straczynski with art by Mike Deodato, this story revealed a dark secret from Gwen Stacy's past. To understand why Sins Past was so controversial, it's important to recall Gwen Stacy's significance in Spider-Man's life. Gwen was Peter Parker's first great love, and her death at the hands of the Green Goblin marked one of the most impactful and beloved moments in comic book history. In this story, it's revealed that Gwen Stacy had a secret romance with Norman Osborn, the alter ego of the Green Goblin, and that she became pregnant with twins before her death. This revelation not only deeply affected Peter Parker but also enraged many fans, who felt that this story tarnished Gwen's memory. Many considered this plot twist unnecessary and a betrayal of Gwen Stacy's character. The idea that Gwen had an affair with Norman Osborn, a much older man and Spider-Man's archenemy, was seen as a forced and out-of-place narrative decision. Many fans expressed their anger on forums and social media, arguing that this revelation destroyed Gwen's pure and innocent image and was a cheap attempt to add drama to Spider-Man's story. Criticism also focused on how this revelation retroactively affected the relationship between Peter and Gwen. Writer J. Michael Straczynski defended the story, arguing that he wanted to explore untold aspects of Gwen's past and add layers of complexity to Spider-Man's story. Despite Marvel's awareness of the criticism, they defended the story, emphasizing that comics should evolve and surprise readers. Sins Past remains one of the most controversial arcs in Spider-Man's history. While some fans have come to appreciate the boldness of the story, many still consider it a major mistake that tarnished the memory of one of Marvel's most beloved characters. The next comic is Ultimatum, an event that shook the foundations of the Ultimate Universe of Marvel. Published in 2008 and written by Jeff Loeb, with art by David Finch, Ultimatum promised to forever change the status quo of this alternate universe. In this comic, Magneto unleashes a global catastrophe by reversing the Earth's magnetic poles, causing massive natural disasters that devastate the planet. This story aimed to be a dramatic and dark reboot of the Ultimate Universe, with deadly consequences for many heroes and villains. The number and brutality of the deaths in Ultimatum were shocking. Iconic characters like Wolverine, Doctor Strange, and many others met horrific and graphic deaths. One of the most remembered scenes from this comic is when Wasp is devoured on one of the pages. The extreme violence and the abrupt nature of these deaths left many readers stunned and upset. Many fans felt that the narrative lacked depth and that the deaths were used as a sensationalist tool rather than an organic development of the plot. The lack of proper narrative build-up and abrupt plot decisions were seen as a shock tactic that did not respect the characters' legacies. Many readers expressed their disappointment and anger on forums and social media, criticizing Marvel for what they saw as an exploitation of the characters' suffering to boost sales. Criticism also focused on Jeff Loeb for the lack of coherence and motivation in the plot. Both Marvel and Jeff defended the story, arguing that it was meant to be a high-stakes event reflecting the fragility of life and the impact of tragedy. Marvel also explained that the goal was to revitalize the Ultimate Universe and pave the way for new stories and characters. Despite the controversy, Ultimatum had a lasting impact on the Ultimate Universe. The story marked the end of an era and the beginning of another, with the universe being rebuilt in the sequels. However, the event remains one of the most divisive in Marvel's history, remembered both for its ambition and its shortcomings. Now we have one of the most shocking and controversial comics in DC Comics history: Batman, A Death in the Family. Published in 1988 and written by Jim Starlin with art by Jim Aparo, this storyline brought one of the greatest tragedies in Batman's life. In this story, Jason Todd, the second Robin, is captured and brutally beaten by the Joker. What made this comic truly unique and controversial was that DC Comics allowed readers to decide Jason's fate through a phone-in vote. Fans could call a number to vote on whether Robin should live or die. The vote was extremely close, but in the end, readers decided that Jason should die. The Joker placed Jason in a warehouse with a bomb, and Batman arrived too late to save him. Jason's death was devastating for Batman and left a deep scar on his character. The fact that a character's fate was decided by a phone vote was seen by many as a sensationalist gimmick. The brutality of Jason's death, especially as a young character, was also shocking and controversial. Some readers praised DC for taking narrative risks and involving fans in an unprecedented way. Others criticized the decision, arguing that turning a character's life or death into a spectacle was insensitive and exploitative. Both writer Jim Starlin and DC Comics editors defended the story, explaining that they wanted to explore the real consequences of being a young and vulnerable superhero. DC also stated that the vote was a way to engage fans in the narrative in a groundbreaking manner. Despite the controversy, A Death in the Family had a lasting impact on the Batman universe. Jason Todd's death would haunt Batman for years, and eventually, Jason would return as the anti-hero Red Hood, adding new layers to his character and his relationship with Batman. The Walking Dead is a series that revolutionized the zombie genre and became a cultural phenomenon. First published in 2003 and written by Robert Kirkman with art by Tony Moore and Charlie Adlard, The Walking Dead has been acclaimed for its intense narrative and raw approach to the zombie apocalypse. This comic is known for its willingness to explore the worst aspects of human nature amid chaos. The series is not just about surviving in a world full of zombies but also about how characters cope with their own fears, traumas, and moral decisions. This premise leads to impactful, and often extremely dark, moments. One of the main sources of controversy in The Walking Dead is its handling of violence and the deaths of its characters. The series has no qualms about killing off major characters in brutal and unexpected ways. The deaths of beloved characters, such as the Governor, Glenn Rhee, among others, often occur in violent and heartbreaking manners. In particular, Glenn Rhee's death in issue number 100 was a turning point for many readers. The graphic and ruthless way in which Glenn is killed by Negan with a baseball bat sparked significant debate. Some fans found the violence excessive and exploitative, while others saw it as an integral part of the series' dark and realistic tone. Reactions to the character deaths and violent scenes were diverse. While some praised Kirkman's bravery for tackling difficult subjects and offering a narrative that challenged expectations, others criticized the series for what they saw as gratuitous exploitation of suffering and violence. The brutality and constant sense of real danger created an intense but polarizing reading experience. Robert Kirkman and Image Comics defended the series, arguing that The Walking Dead aimed to explore human nature in its rawest form and challenge readers to confront the reality of the zombie apocalypse without censorship. Kirkman emphasized that the goal was to provide a story reflecting the emotional and psychological challenges of a hopeless world. Despite the controversy, The Walking Dead has left a lasting impact on the world of comics and popular culture. Its ability to push the boundaries of graphic storytelling and explore dark aspects of humanity has made the series both influential and divisive. The next comic on our list is Spawn, a series that marked a turning point in the comic book industry. Created by Todd McFarlane and first released in 1992, Spawn stood out for its dark approach and unique artistic style. Spawn follows the story of Al Simmons, a hitman who, after his death, is sent to hell. There, he makes a deal with the devil to return to Earth as a hellspawn with supernatural abilities, hoping to reunite with his wife. However, upon returning, he finds himself in a battle between good and evil, facing a series of enemies and confronting his own demonic nature. The main controversy surrounding Spawn lies in its dark and violent themes. The series did not shy away from graphic details and grim subjects, addressing issues of violence, corruption, and the struggle between heaven and hell in a raw and explicit manner. The graphic violence and mature content were points of debate, especially in a comic book market largely oriented toward a younger audience. Some readers and critics praised Todd for his bravery in exploring dark themes and for his innovative artistic style, which offered a new perspective in the comic book genre. However, others criticized the series for what they saw as unnecessary exploitation of violence and suffering, arguing that the content was too disturbing and lacked a positive or uplifting narrative. Todd McFarlane defended his work, asserting that Spawn was designed to explore darker and more complex aspects of the human condition, something that was not commonly seen in mainstream comics at the time. McFarlane emphasized that the goal was to create a character with depth and to confront readers with moral and existential issues in a grim setting. Despite the controversy, Spawn made a lasting impact on the comic book world. The series not only became a commercial success but was also adapted into a film and an animated series, expanding its influence in popular culture. The impact of Spawn demonstrated that there is room for darker and more mature stories in comics, challenging established norms. Kick-Ass is a series that shook the comic world with its bold and provocative approach. Published for the first time in 2008, and created by Mark Millar with art by John Romita Jr., Kick-Ass has generated much discussion and controversy. Kick-Ass tells the story of Dave Lazuski, an ordinary teenager who decides to become a superhero despite lacking special abilities or training. The series explores Dave's life as he battles criminals and faces the harsh realities of being a vigilante in the real world. Alongside him is the character Hit Girl, an extremely skilled and violent young girl trained by her father to fight crime. The controversy surrounding Kick-Ass primarily focuses on its graphic depiction of violence and explicit language. The series does not shy away from showing brutal combat scenes and blood, leading to debates about the impact of violence on audiences. In particular, the character of Hit Girl, a child trained for extreme violence, was especially controversial. Her portrayal of violence and the severity of her actions raised concerns about the exploitation of child violence. Some readers praised the series for its bold approach and its raw representation of the reality of being a superhero without powers. Fans appreciated the irreverent twist on the superhero genre and the unprecedented way the comic tackled themes. However, other critics and readers found the graphic violence and the depiction of a child character in violent contexts unnecessary and problematic. Mark Millar, the creator, defended his work as a satire of the superhero genre, designed to challenge conventions and offer a realistic perspective on heroism. Millar argued that the violence and explicit language were necessary elements to convey the tone and message of the comic. The impact of Kick-Ass also extended to film, with adaptations in 2010 and 2013 that brought the story to an even larger audience. The films, like the comic, received both praise for their freshness and criticism for their violent and provocative content. The next comic is Sandman, a groundbreaking series that has captured the imagination of both readers and critics alike. Published between 1989 and 1996, and written by Neil Gaiman, with art by various artists including Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg, Sandman is known for its complexity and unique approach, but it has also been a subject of controversy. Sandman follows the story of Morpheus, the Lord of Dreams, who is one of the Endless, a group of cosmic entities representing fundamental aspects of existence. The series explores deep themes such as power, identity, reality, and mythology, moving between horror, fantasy, and classic literature. When it comes to the controversy surrounding Sandman, it centers on several aspects of its content. The series does not shy away from tackling dark and complex topics, including death, suicide, and sexuality. Additionally, Sandman presents a very free and often irreverent view of religious and mythological figures, leading to debates about the representation of religion and spirituality. A particularly controversial point was the portrayal of the character Lucifer Morningstar in the storyline A Midsummer Night's Dream. The depiction of Lucifer, which reflects an ambiguous and challenging perspective on the figure of the devil, as well as the exploration of freedom and rebellion, sparked debates about the representation of religion and the questioning of traditional beliefs. Some praised the originality and depth of the series. Readers appreciated the way Gaiman combined mythology, literature, and mature storytelling in an innovative manner. However, some critics and religious groups found the themes addressed and the way established beliefs and values were challenged problematic. Neil Gaiman, the author of Sandman, has defended his work as a literary and philosophical exploration that seeks to address universal themes through imaginative storytelling. Gaiman has noted that the series was meant to challenge expectations and provide a diverse perspective on reality and fantasy. The impact of Sandman has also extended to other media, including a television adaptation that has introduced the work to a new audience. The series continues to be influential and respected for its unique approach to the comic book genre. The next comic on our list is Sin City, a series that left a profound mark on the noir and crime genres. First published in 1991 and created by Frank Miller, Sin City is known for its distinctive visual style and raw narrative but has also been the subject of considerable controversy. Sin City is a series of interconnected stories set in the fictional city of Basin City. The series is characterized by its black and white visual style, with color accents that highlight the violence and drama of its stories. Frank Miller creates a universe where brutality, corruption, and ambiguous morality dominate the urban landscape. The controversy surrounding Sin City centers on its extreme depiction of violence and sex. The comic does not shy away from showing graphic scenes of violence and sexual exploitation, with characters often involved in plots of revenge and corruption. The explicit use of these themes sparked debates about the influence of such representations on readers and the ethics of their inclusion in the narrative. Reactions to Sin City were intense. Some readers and critics praised Miller's innovative visual style and the way the comic captured the essence of classic noir with a modern twist. The series was acclaimed for its originality and its ability to create a unique atmosphere. However, others found the violence and sexual content excessive and problematic, questioning whether their inclusion was necessary for plot development or simply a sensationalist device. Frank Miller, the creator of Sin City, defended his work as an exploration of the noir genre and an honest representation of the dark and corrupt world he imagined. Miller argued that the violence and sex were elements that intensified the drama and reflected the brutal nature of the environment he had created. The impact of Sin City extended to film, with a 2005 adaptation directed by Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, followed by a sequel in 2014. The films replicated the comic's distinctive visual style and brought the story to a broader audience, sparking a new cycle of debate about its graphic representation. The Boys is a series that challenges the conventions of the superhero genre with a mix of satire and critique. First published in 2006 and created by Garth Ennis with art by Derek Robertson, The Boys has been widely discussed and controversial. The Boys is set in a world where superheroes are not the perfect heroes that society believes them to be. Instead, these heroes are corrupted by power and fame, acting selfishly and often brutally. The story follows a group of vigilantes known as the Boys, who are dedicated to controlling and, in some cases, eliminating corrupt superheroes. The controversy surrounding The Boys revolves around its graphic depiction of violence, vulgar language, and taboo subjects. The series is known for its explicit, and often grotesque, portrayal of violence, as well as its biting critique of superhero culture. It addresses issues like abuse of power, corruption, and morality in a raw and unfiltered manner. Many readers and critics have praised the series for its sharp satire and bold commentary on the superhero genre. Ennis's irreverent and often comedic approach to corruption and power abuse has been well received by those seeking an alternative and more brutal view of the superhero world. However, others have found the graphic content and explicit language excessive or inappropriate, questioning the necessity of such elements for the plot. Garth Ennis, the creator of The Boys, has defended his work as a critique of superhero culture and an exploration of the dark aspects of power. Ennis has argued that the violence and graphic language are integral to his social commentary, and that the comic seeks to reflect the complexity and corruption within the world of superheroes. The impact of The Boys extended to television, with a highly successful adaptation that began in 2019. The TV series has replicated the comic's bold tone and sparked a new wave of debate about the representation of violence and social critique in media. Our next comic is a classic that has generated both admiration and controversy, V for Vendetta. Published between 1982 and 1989, and written by Alan Moore with art by David Lloyd, this comic has become a masterpiece of the genre, but not without sparking debate. V for Vendetta is set in a dystopian future in the United Kingdom, where a totalitarian regime has taken power. The story follows an enigmatic vigilante known only as V, who seeks to overthrow the oppressive government and bring freedom to the people. Using terror and symbolism, V challenges tyranny through a series of rebellious acts. The controversy surrounding V for Vendetta centers on several aspects. First, the work presents a strong critique of authoritarianism and oppression, topics that can be controversial in politically sensitive contexts. The depiction of a totalitarian regime and V's violent tactics to combat it sparked debates about the morality of violence and terrorism in the fight for freedom. In particular, the series addresses themes such as state surveillance, media manipulation, and political oppression, issues that resonated deeply at the time and remain relevant. The way Alan Moore uses terrorism as a tool for the protagonist to challenge the government generated debate over the legitimacy of using such methods for social change. While some readers and critics praise the depth and boldness of the work, viewing it as a profound reflection on freedom and tyranny, others found the themes troubling and the glorification of terrorism as a means to an end problematic. The moral complexity of the character V also provoked debates about the ethics of his actions. Alan Moore, the author of V for Vendetta, defended his work as a critique of oppressive systems and an exploration of individual resistance against tyranny. Moore emphasized that the intention was to offer a reflection on power, freedom, and resistance, not necessarily to promote violence as a solution. The impact of V for Vendetta extended beyond comics to film, with the 2005 adaptation directed by James McTeague. The movie broadened the story's reach and brought its themes to a wider audience, sparking a new cycle of debates about its message and relevance in the modern world. Next on our list is a work that has left an indelible mark on the Batman universe, The Killing Joke. Published in 1988 and written by Alan Moore with art by Brian Bolland, this comic has become a classic, but not without its share of controversy. The Killing Joke is known for its exploration of the Joker's origin and his relationship with Batman. In this story, the Joker captures Barbara Gordon, the daughter of Commissioner Gordon, and subjects her to brutal psychological and physical abuse, aiming to prove that anyone can go insane under enough pressure. The violence and torture that Barbara Gordon endures are central elements of the plot. The main source of controversy in The Killing Joke is the treatment of Barbara Gordon. The brutality with which the Joker handles her, including her stripping and physical and psychological torture, is extremely graphic. In particular, the fact that the comic depicts Barbara Gordon being shot and then shown in a scene where she is gravely injured and naked sparked significant debate about the representation of violence against women in comics. Many readers and critics viewed the comic as a masterpiece, praising the depth of the Joker's character and the dark narrative it offered. However, some found the use of violence as a plot device problematic, along with its impact on Barbara Gordon's character. Alan Moore, the author, defended his work by arguing that the violence in the comic was an integral part of exploring the Joker's psychology in his relationship with Batman. Moore also noted that the comic aimed to be a reflection on madness and the nature of evil, though he understood the criticism regarding the graphic depiction of violence. The impact of The Killing Joke has extended beyond comics, with animated adaptations and its influence on various portrayals of the Joker and Batman in other media. Despite the controversy, the story remains an important part of Batman's legacy. The next comic is one of the most influential and debated in the history of comics, Watchmen. Published between 1986 and 1987, and written by Alan Moore with art by Dave Gibbons, Watchmen is a masterpiece acclaimed for its complexity but also a subject of controversy. Watchmen is set in an alternate 1980s where superheroes have changed the course of history. The plot follows a group of retired vigilantes who become entangled in a conspiracy that threatens to trigger a nuclear war. The story is known for its realistic and dark approach to the concept of superheroes and their consequences. One of the main sources of controversy in this comic is its treatment of dark and mature themes. The comic addresses issues such as morality, power, corruption, and the psychological impact of being a hero. Additionally, it features graphic violence, sex, and political themes that were unusual for comics of the time. The raw portrayal of these themes challenged the established norms in the comic book genre. In particular, the comic is known for its graphic violence and themes of moral depravity, as seen in the characterization of the comedian and the violent scenes depicted. The series also explores the ambiguous morality of its characters, leading to debates about the nature of heroism and the role of superheroes in society. Reactions to Watchmen were mixed but largely positive. Many readers and critics praised the comic for its narrative depth and innovative approach to superheroes, considering it elevated the genre to new heights. However, others found the graphic depiction of violence and adult themes excessive or inappropriate, challenging the expectations of what a comic could be. Alan Moore defended his work as an exploration of human nature and the ethics of power. Moore emphasized that the purpose of Watchmen was to offer a more mature and complex view of superheroes, and that the violence and dark themes were essential to the narrative. The impact of Watchmen also extended to other media, including a 2009 film and a 2019 television series. Its influence on popular culture and the comic book genre remains significant, and the comic continues to be a benchmark for mature graphic storytelling. The next comic is Mouse, a groundbreaking work that has left an indelible mark on graphic literature. First published in 1986 and created by Art Spiegelman, Mouse is known for its innovative approach and its treatment of deep historical themes. Mouse is a graphic novel that tells the story of Art Spiegelman's father, Vladek, a Polish Jew who survived the Holocaust. Using a stylized representation where Jews are depicted as mice and Nazis as cats, the comic offers a deeply personal and harrowing perspective on the impact of the Holocaust. The controversy surrounding Mouse centers on its treatment of the Holocaust and its use of anthropomorphic animals to represent people. The series has been the subject of debates about the representation of sensitive historical themes in a comic format and the emotional impact these representations can have on readers. In particular, the choice to use mice and cats to represent victims and oppressors has sparked controversy over the appropriateness of this technique for such a serious subject. The comic has been praised for its ability to convey the horror and complexity of historical events in an accessible and emotionally powerful way. However, some critics and readers have questioned whether using animals instead of humans may trivialize the Holocaust experience or distract from the real suffering. Despite the controversy, Mouse has been widely recognized and awarded, including the Pulitzer Prize in 1992. The work has been acclaimed for its innovation in the comic medium and its ability to address complex historical themes with profound sensitivity. The penultimate comic on this list is Crossed, a series that has generated a great deal of controversy due to its extremely graphic and disturbing content. First published in 2008 and created by Garth Ennis, Crossed has been the subject of debate for its brutal approach and its depiction of violence. Crossed is set in a post-apocalyptic world where a pandemic transforms people into violent and deranged beings known as Crossed. Unlike traditional zombies, these infected retain their mental abilities but are consumed by brutal madness. The series follows a group of survivors as they struggle to stay alive in this ruthless environment. The controversy surrounding Crossed centers on its extremely graphic portrayal of violence and exploitation. The comic is known for its uncensored scenes of brutality, including acts of sexual violence and torture. The treatment of these themes has sparked debates about the ethics and necessity of such representations in the narrative. Some readers found the content excessive and disturbing, while others argued that the comic aims to provide an uncompromising view of desperation and brutality. Reactions to Crossed have been polarized. Some have praised the series for its audacity and its ability to push the boundaries of the horror genre. The series has been acclaimed for its visceral representation and its capacity to provoke an intense emotional response. However, many critics and readers have questioned the necessity and impact of the graphic violence, arguing that the comic may be seen as a form of exploitation and sensationalism. Garth Ennis, the creator, has defended his work as an exploration of horror and desperation in an extreme context. Ennis has argued that the violence and disturbing content are integral to the story, aiming to reflect the hopelessness and madness in a collapsed world. The impact of Crossed has extended to other media, including adaptations and spin-offs that have maintained the brutal tone of the original series. The series has developed a cult following and has influenced how some creators approach the graphic horror genre. To close our list of controversial comics, we discuss Preacher, a series that has challenged and shocked audiences since its release. First published in 1995 and created by Garth Ennis with art by Steve Dillon, Preacher is known for its bold approach and its controversial handling of sensitive topics. Preacher follows the story of Jesse Custer, a preacher in a small Texas town who receives the power of the entity known as Genesis, which grants him the ability to make anyone obey his commands. Alongside his girlfriend Tulip O'Hare and an Irish vampire named Cassidy, Jesse embarks on a quest to find God, who has abandoned heaven. The series combines elements of the supernatural with a deeply irreverent narrative. The controversy surrounding Preacher arises from its depiction of violence, blasphemy, and religious themes. The series is known for its bold treatment of subjects like religion, racism, and sexuality, often featuring graphic scenes and explicit language. The way Ennis uses blasphemy and sacrilege as integral parts of the plot has been a point of contention, with critics and readers questioning the ethics and necessity of such elements. Reactions to Preacher have been mixed. Many readers have praised the series for its originality, its ability to challenge norms, and its bold narrative approach. The series has been acclaimed for its wit and its skill in blending dark humor with a complex storyline. However, others have found the violence and blasphemous content excessive and offensive, sparking debates about the line between provocative art and sensationalism. Garth Ennis has defended Preacher as an exploration of morality and religion through an irreverent lens. Ennis has argued that the series seeks to question and challenge established beliefs, using the narrative to delve into deep and controversial themes. The impact of Preacher extended to television, with an adaptation that began in 2016, continuing to explore the bold and controversial themes of the comic. The TV series replicated the irreverent tone and complexity of the original work, maintaining the debate over its content. And so, we come to the end of our journey through some of the most controversial comics in history. From Spider-Woman to Preacher, each of these works has made a deep mark on the world of comics, challenging norms and sparking debates that have shaken both fans and critics. The stories we've explored today have not only impacted the medium of comics but have also influenced pop culture and how sensitive and controversial topics are perceived in graphic storytelling. The courage of these creators in tackling difficult subjects has opened new doors and generated important conversations. But this doesn't have to end here. There are many more controversial comics that have left their mark on the comic book world, and we could explore even more stories and debates in a second installment. What other comics do you think deserve to be on a list of the most controversial? Leave your suggestions in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content on similar topics, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our upcoming videos. Thank you for your attention and for joining me on this journey through the most controversial comics. This has been the Cat's Notebook. See you next time.